Welcome to another evening in the barn and another evening of what our little discussion is of barn banter. We're looking at 10 days now until we leave for our first horse show, maybe less than that.
8 days.
And the thing that I dread every year is loading up the trailer because we have unloaded it at the end of the year. And because of Brent's background in trailer sales, and I thought that it would be a good discussion for us to have as far as what you need to do to prepare your trailer in the springtime before you start and head out on the road. So from my standpoint, it's just a matter of sit back and watch the money roll out the door, but it's better to fix it before we get broke down somewhere. So Brent, what are the things that you hash off your list as far as getting your trailer ready?
Well, the first thing I do is check with you to see how much money we've got.
Yeah, and I always tell you there's not enough, so we're going.
But no, there is nothing more frustrating, concerning, making you nervous, a nervous wreck, panicking, to have problems on the road. And you're always going to run that risk. We've all had problems, we've all been broke down, something happens, and as hard as we try, you cannot always 100% prevent it. But I've learned, and we talked to our customers when they would buy new trailers or bring one in for service. You got to be proactive, and it's very basic. The very first thing you're going to do is check your tires. Just because they look good does not mean that they are good. There'll be hidden problems. You turn too short. We all do it. I do it. You can break the strands on the inside, the steel belts or nylon belts, and you'll never see those, but it creates weak spots in the in your tires. My rule of thumb is, because I've got a big trailer, I do mine every 3 years, but no matter how many miles or how long you've had your trailer and the tires, change them at least every 5 years. 3 years is better. We don't have a camera, and I don't, but there's a date on the outside of every tire, of date of manufacture. And just because you bought new tires 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they could have sat in a warehouse for up to 5, 7 years. I've seen them as much as 10. They'll be like 15 years old, and the customer will say they're 5 years old. So find that number. You can Google it, but it'll be a 4-digit number. It'll be the month and year of manufacture. That becomes really important. Sitting around doing nothing is harder on them than using them. It's that way in a lot of things in life. But find that date and know how old your tires are. And if they're more than 10 years old, replace them. I don't care how good they look. I'm giving you a heads up. You're waiting for a problem if you don't. So change your tires.
Excuse me, but especially if you happen to have bought a trailer that somebody's had sitting for a while.
Correct.
Because sitting and not being used, and the dry rot that happens with them is just as bad as sending it up and down the road and wearing them out.
Worse, but you're exactly right. So that's the first thing you want to check is your tires. Then the very next thing is your bearings. Make sure there's grease in your bearings and they're free moving and everything is the way it's intended to be. Bearings will wear out. Too much grease is as bad or worse than what not enough grease is. In your bearings, there's a bearing and then a seal, and too much grease will push that seal out it'll leak grease onto your brakes and stuff, and then you'll ruin your brakes. So if you're, I am not mechanically inclined. If you're like me, hire a professional to do it that knows what they're doing. They do this every day for a living. They, you know, they'll take care of you, but don't let them over grease it. Don't think every time you pull, hook up to the trailer to go someplace of putting a couple shots of grease in it, because that's how you get too much grease, and that's how you create the problem I just talked about. So, you know, check your bearings, check the grease, check your brakes, make sure your brakes are all working, the wiring for your brakes is all working. You could have run over something that is, you know, pulled a wire loose, broke it. Stranger things have happened. I don't know how some of these things, you know, there's little gremlins that travel underneath your trailer that just live there to create problems for you. You know, check all your lights, you know, moisture. If you live in the North Country like we do, you could get moisture in your lights, and then freeze and thaw, short things out, rusty connections, especially on older trailers. So double check that, make sure all your lights work, inside and out. Make sure all your wiring is functioning correctly. Obviously your brakes and turn signals are beyond important. You know, you've got to be able to communicate to the people behind you that you're changing directions or making a turn or braking. So just go through the trailer, common sense, general things, just go through it. And to be honest, it's probably a good thing to do it every once a month, once every couple months, with your wiring, and make sure your lights and stuff are working. I try to do it at least once a month or before we make major trips. You know, well, mine's scheduled to be done next week before we leave on Thursday. You know, and then I'll have all this checked out again before we go to Tulsa in June. So every 2 or 3 months, just, you know, walk around it. Have somebody that you trust walk around it, make sure everything's good, all your lug nuts are tight, tires, you know, are all good. And that's the best advice I can give you to prevent, be proactive and prevent problems on the road. It's you still run the risk, but you'll greatly reduce time along, you know, stopped or alongside the road broke down.
And having driven the trailer by myself sometimes, you know, there's some things that are important to have in it. Make sure that you have a tire wrench. You probably need to have 2 of them just to make sure.
Yeah.
The other thing is you can buy those little trailer ramps where you run your good tire up on the trailer ramp instead of using a jack to change a tire. It is a game changer if you are broke down. So, you know, look and get one of those. Make sure that you have flashlights, you know, that you have the things so that, you know, it's Murphy's Law. If you have it, you're never going to need it. But when you're broke down on the side of the road coming home from a horse show at 11 o'clock at night or headed to a horse show, the last thing you want is to start pulling things out. And plan packing your trailer so that you can get to them. You know, don't just overload it, because when you're broke down on the side of the road, having to filter through things to get to your equipment is bad. Now, one thing you didn't talk about, Brent, is, and it's extremely important, is the floors in your trailer.
Oh, you're exactly right. I know some people are beyond anal. They pull out the mats after every use and power wash it. I'm not that way. We try to do ours 2 or 3 times a year, but inspect your floor. Wood floors will rot, but aluminum floors will also rot. It's called white rust, and urine and acid from urine and manure and stuff is terribly hard on that on an aluminum surface. So pull your mats out, inspect your floor, power wash it, and put your mats back in. Little household helpful hint is before you put your mats back in, take a box or 2 boxes of baking soda and put a thin layer of baking soda on top of your aluminum floor. Baking soda will neutralize the acid that causes the corrosion, and you'll save your trailer floor by years. Give you an example, we bought a new trailer in 2000 and 2003. I spent a lot of money having to replace the floor because I never checked it. Aluminum floors last forever. I never checked it, and one day I did pull my mats out, and I had holes as big as my thumb or bigger all throughout the trailer. I panicked. I called the trailer manufacturer. Have you cleaned it and maintained it? No, no warranty. It's all on you, buddy. And so I had to beg for more money to fix the trailer. Had that trailer for about 10 years, and then I bought another, sold that one and bought another one, a bigger trailer. And I was religious about cleaning it, baking soda, you know, taking care of this trailer. I had it for 8 or 9 years, maybe 10 years also. No, not quite 10. But the guy that bought it did not believe that the floor and the condition it was in. It looked almost like it was brand new. It had a little bit of stain in it, but it was thick, like brand new. No pits, no nothing in it, because I'd taken care of it. So floors are terrible. You know, wood floor, put some oil on them, inspect them.
Jump up and down on them so you see if you've got any give, because
take an ice pick or a knife and see how soft or porous they are. You know, they should all be oak, and that should last 15, 20 years with just a little bit of care. Use motor oil if you can find it. It's a great preservative. Thompson's Water Seal, any sort of product like that, once a year is great on wood floors. We just talked about the aluminum floors. Take care of them. The trailer today is a major investment. So you want to do all these things. You want to be prepared, like Julie said. If you should have a problem or a breakdown, have some tools and be prepared to take care of it. But don't ignore your trailer or assume that it's all good. You know, be a little proactive, like everything in life.
So get those trailers cleaned out, packed up, headed out for your first shows this spring. We hope you have a good summer showing horses. That's it for tonight's Barn Banter. If you like us, subscribe to us on YouTube. Take a look at some of the other things we've been discussing. We hope to have quite the little journey down the road for you on YouTube. So thanks. Night.
Have a good evening.